Welcome to the kbbreview podcast, the show totally dedicated to the world of independent kitchen and bathroom retail. I'm Andy Davies, and we're back with a brand new season. It's season 18, in fact, and if it's your first time here, welcome, and lucky you. You've got nearly 350 episodes to catch up on, so off you go, don't worry, we'll wait for you. In this episode, we're catching up on business so far in 2026 with our regular team of retailers. We're over halfway through April now, so how has the year been so far? Where have the pinch points been? What are the positives? How are consumers behaving? Is it all Donald Trump's fault? Probably. How are they adapting? And how confident do they actually feel about the rest of the year? Waiting in the wings, we have Nick Warrington, Liz Pantling-Jones and Trevor Scott, but we also have a new recruit. Now, very sadly, Justine has had to leave the band as a regular member, although we will get her back for occasional guest appearances. So we have a new bathroom retailer on the drums, and we will find out who that is in a minute. But first, now I'm sure that as a proud citizen of the world of KBB, you want to find out everything worth knowing, and most importantly, you want to know it straight away. So do you subscribe to the KBB Review email newsletter? Yes, twice a week, on Tuesdays and Thursdays to be precise, we bring you all the latest news, interviews, opinions, advice and analysis from the KBB world directly to your inbox. And it's also where we send out the latest big breaking news stories as they happen. It's really easy to sign up. Simply go along to kbbreview.com/subscribe and it will take less than a minute. Tell your friends, tell your colleagues, get them all to sign up too, as this is the best way of staying in the know. That's kbbreview.com/subscribe. So here is our Fab Four back for more. We have Nick Warrington from Stuart J. Warrington in Macclesfield. Hello, Nick.
Hello.
Welcome back to you. We have Liz Pantling-Jones from Lima Kitchens in Milton Keynes. Hello, Liz.
Hi, guys.
Good to see you back. We have Trevor Scott from RFK in Rugby, but he's not in Rugby. We'll come to that in a minute. Hello, Trevor.
Good morning.
And we have our new recruit. Welcome to the show, Steph Warner from Pier 1 Bathrooms in Hove. Hello, Steph.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. It is very good to have you. Thank you for joining us. Now, before we come to you, Steph, let's just cover this off. Where are you right now, Trev?
I'm on the banks of the River Coe in Glencoe on the first leg of our 3-week trip round Scotland.
So you can hear the birds tweeting in the background. It is not currently raining, which makes me think he's not really in Scotland. But you can't see him, but we can, and you can literally see mountains in the background. It's absolutely beautiful. Right, Steph, let's come to you. For those who don't know you, obviously you've won awards. People will know and have heard of you, but let's get a bit of the detail on it. Can you give us a quick overview of Pier 1 and your whole entry into the industry, your experience in the industry, etc.?
Yeah, Pier 1 Bathrooms founded in 2019. We're in Brighton and Hove, so right sort of parallel to the seafront. And we're a smallish team. There's 5 of us there. We are bathrooms only, so we specialise in luxury bathroom design. We do the full project, the install as well. I'm actually a psychologist by background, so I'm not a bathroom expert, or I didn't come into it as a bathroom expert. I have been thrown into the deep end. I am now full-time in the showroom, and I have been for the last 3 years. So I feel like I've had a steep learning curve, and I now would consider myself much more of a bathroom expert, I suppose. But yeah, it's been a steep learning curve, let's say that.
Well, you were our bathroom retailer of the year, 2024, Steph, weren't you? So you are. I think you should, should be proud of what you've achieved so far. And previous psychologist, Nick was previously a solicitor, but Liz and Trevor, you are kitchen people through and through. But you can't say that we don't cover the full gamut on this podcast, because we've got Trevor in the wilds of Scotland and we've got Steph on the south coast in Hove, and Liz and Nick in between. I think we're doing all right. Right, okay, so it's the first episode of our new season. We thought it would be good to just kind of get a bit of an overview of how we're viewing the market at the moment. We've had a bit of a gap. We've had the first quarter of the year has gone by. We're all at the KBB show. Let's start with you, Nick. What's your evaluation of 2026 so far? How are you viewing the market since probably we last spoke?
It's been mixed, I think, is the short answer. I think I'm probably glad that I'm a glass half full kind of person at the moment. We've had a mixed start. It's not been as good as I would have liked it to have been in the inquiries that in the first part of the year, sort of January, and that's fed through a little bit into the installs that we've got in the pipeline. We've had a few jobs delayed where we've been waiting for builders that aren't in our control. So it's felt a bit average and not particularly sort of bouncing. But that being said, on a positive note, inquiry levels are definitely up over the last sort of 3 to 4 weeks, and that is definitely feeding through to what I've got further down the pipeline in terms of installations. And on the trade side, the plumbing and bathroom counter, that's really buoyant. So that's kind of compensating at the other end of the building.
Right. How about you, Trev? 'Cause you've obviously got 2 or 3 showrooms. How are you seeing the first quarter of the year?
Well, I think the honest answer is that the only thing that we can say is consistent about this year is the inconsistency. We started the year very positively, a strong January, some of the highest visitor numbers in the showroom on a Saturday up to prior to COVID, which was amazing. Did some good business. February was strong, and then it just died in March, and I think we all know why that was. But again, it's come back up again. Easter week, we took deposits on £250,000 worth of work in a week, and the level of inquiries is maintaining a reasonable degree of consistency at the moment. But that's at the moment. You can't plan for anything. Anything you can plan for is that you can't plan for anything. And it's really frustrating because there's no end in sight to when we can get everything on an even keel again.
Liz, what do you think?
I started this year really quite doom and gloom, but from February we've really picked up, and there is definitely for us a little bit more consistency, or that's what I'm going to cling on to and hope for. But as Trevor says, you don't know what's going to happen. There isn't the consistency that there was when I started my business 20 years ago, where you had your ups, your downs. It is just take every day as it comes and make the most of it, really.
Right. So, Steph, what do you think? What's your evaluation of 2026 so far?
A funny one for us, because last year was very up and down, but this first quarter has actually been our best quarter yet, which has surprised us a lot. We were expecting for it to be tricky again. We launched the year with a sale, but our inquiries have just been the best that they have been for a long time, to be honest. I think it is down to a couple of unique local factors for us, which I could go into. But yeah, we're actually doing really well, and we're feeling really positive at the moment.
Yeah, it's really interesting this, because we did a survey that came out in our April issue. The broad conclusion from it was that the industry is split into 3 ways. There's a third of the industry seems to be doing badly, a third of the industry seems to be about the same, and a third of the industry seems to be doing brilliantly. And it's literally a third. And it shows really that the idea that the market's terrible, isn't it, isn't really quite as clear-cut as perhaps it is, because, Steph, clearly you're doing very well. Others of you are finding it a bit more difficult. It's pretty typical, I think, across the board. So what are the differences, Steph, do you think? What has happened in the last few months that has made that change?
I think it is down to a couple of things that we have personally done, but also within Brighton and Hove, actually, 2 of our major competitors have sadly closed their doors. So that actually is a reflection potentially of what we're saying. So naturally, that has a follow-on impact onto us and our inquiries. But we have invested, really, we made quite a big decision to hugely up our marketing spend. We've over doubled what we spend monthly on our online marketing and change companies and things. And I do think we're seeing the impact of that. And so it's a bit of a risk. I mean, potentially it's about the market as well, but our average GP has also gone up by about £2,000 per sale. So we are seeing the higher value client coming to us and are still, very much there. So yeah, I think it's a balance of things, a bit unique to us in our area, but definitely investing in the marketing has paid off for us.
Yeah, what's weird in that third split I was talking about, if you ask the people in the bottom third what the problem is, they'll talk about Donald Trump and, wars in Ukraine and the price of oil. And the top third, who are doing well, will all talk about themselves and what they've done and how they've changed and what extra things they've done. And it's very telling split, I suppose, between they're claiming the success for their own, but any failures are always down to Donald Trump. It's always Donald Trump. That's the problem. So look, Nick, what's the real pinch points, do you think? What are the bits where it's causing these backlogs or these stops? What are the points that you've identified that are causing the friction?
I think, yes, there is a certain amount of hesitation in the market with the uncertainty in the Middle East. And so that has led to a few people kind of hesitating slightly. I must admit, and we've all talked about it in the past, I'm a BSH retailer and I well and truly hammered the last cashback promotion, which unfortunately fell while I was away on holiday. So I spent quite a lot of time on the phone getting some deals over the line. So that worked. But I think a lot of it is just, and we spoke about it last year. Getting people over the line is still a bit of a battle. You really have to focus on the sale, keep the momentum, and really focus on providing a good solution for the customer. That's been a pinch point. And then for me, I think it's probably the mix of projects that I've got on. And I try and have a balance between the projects that we are in control of, where we are organising all of the trades and getting those jobs in. The traditional, if you like, out and in, where it's pretty quick, and then the ones where we are following in behind builders, which, with the best will in the world, tend to be a little bit more fluid, shall we say, in terms of the dates that they manage to achieve for when we arrive. And I think the problem we've had is we've had a higher number than usual of projects where we are relying on other builders to do works, and they've been larger projects. And there's a few of those which have just gone ridiculously out of schedule, and that has a knock-on effect as a small business, because we're not doing the same sort of volume in terms of how we can just move things around. So that's been a pinch point for us, just in terms of practicality.
Liz, what about you? You said things have picked up a little bit, but do your clients actually say this? Do they say, I'm going to have to delay this for a while until Donald Trump sorts himself out?
Well, no, they don't say that. What they do is they go, yeah, I'll send you the deposit, send me the invoice. And then you don't hear back from them for 6 weeks until they feel secure again. So that silence that occurs after they've verbally committed and not actually kind of following that through. So I think that's why a lot of us will lean on that as being an effect. And it does happen overnight. So there are some things that are announced, and then all of a sudden everyone stops responding to your emails and picking up phone calls. So that does definitely happen. But I think some of our issues were internal the end of last year. So we didn't come into this year with the order book that we would have expected. We didn't have the mix of projects, as Nick was explaining. So we had a lot of large builds, which just makes you feel a lot less busy. But since February and utilising some of the offers and promotions that are out there, we've definitely picked up and feel like we've got that momentum back.
Do you see that as well, Trevor, the silence?
Oh, without a doubt. We've had this conversation in the past, and really the message hasn't changed. How do you get customers to cross the line? Big question mark. Some of us all been to salesman school, and you've got those 5 key points of how to take an order, and answering objections and making sure that you've got all the positive messages out there. And you can go through the whole gamut, and you can say, are you happy with the design? Are you happy with your colour choices? Are you happy with the price? Do you like me? Do you like us? And the answer is yes to all of them. And so can I have your business, please? Which, of course, you never actually say it in that blunt way, but the essence is the same. And the customer says, yeah, absolutely. The deposit will be in your bank by the end of the week. And then you don't hear from them for fortnight, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and you're chasing them up. And then you feel like you're hounding them, and which isn't our way of selling kitchens. We're a lot more genteel than that. It's incredibly frustrating. But then all of a sudden you'll get a rush of orders. It's almost like everybody's sort of done the proverbial rolling up a cigarette and gone, sod it, let's get on with it, regardless of what's happening in the rest of the world.
So, Steph, you're the flip side of this, because you've had a really busy first part of the year. So your silence has disappeared, has it?
We're definitely still getting this thing with the hesitancy. So once you feel like you've secured somebody and you've got that commitment, all of a sudden, they're not responding to emails and you're really having to chase. Definitely are still seeing that. But I think for us, it's just the volume of our leads and the quality has increased. We were going through a phase where we were getting just really poor quality leads, that were coming in and we're, just really struggling. The budget wasn't there. They just didn't seem like they were the, clients for us. And that's what the main thing that seems to have changed. So when we are actually getting that inquiry, our conversion rate is so much higher. So I think that's the main thing that's changed. But we're definitely having to do more of the hands-on, chasing phone calls to get that commitment. So I do echo some of, what's been said. It's just that we are seeing that increased volume of inquiries.
So are there positive signs, Nick, that you can kind of latch onto? These are the pinch points. So what are the positive things that are coming through that you think, okay, that's different, or that's quite positive, or I can latch onto that to follow that thread? Is there anything good?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little bit like Steph, but I think probably a little bit further behind. I've committed to a marketing agency over the last sort of 6 weeks. That's been up and running, Instagram and Facebook, for about 4 weeks. That's definitely feeding into the leads that I'm getting. getting. It's not a tidal wave, but the leads that I'm getting are good quality leads. So that's, that's a good thing. And I think that's part of the way that we've set up the campaign. So that's, for me, is a positive. I had a really good chat with Trevor at the KBB, and we talked about margins, and my margins not really being as good as they should be. And I've had a bit of a long, hard conversation with myself and a brick wall over the last few months about, am I chasing business? Have I in the past, bearing in mind how long I've been doing it already, but do I subconsciously not put the margin on that I should because I want to keep the conversion rate high? And that, I think, is partly down to lack of volume in leads. And as soon as you increase the volume of leads, particularly if they're good ones, you feel more confident about putting a better margin on your jobs. And so that for me is a positive, because I've started doing that. And I think one of the things that I've realised, going back to Steph and quality of leads and budgets not being there, is that the jobs that I was losing, I was never going to get anyway, because they were the kind of lower price jobs that we still weren't winning because we don't try to compete on price. And so the ones that are left, I've put my margins up and I'm still winning those. So that for me is a positive in terms of where the business is going. And this is obviously offsetting some of the costs that are starting to feed through. So those two things are a really big positive for me looking forward for the rest of the year, really.
So what's interesting about that, Liz, see what you think, is that what Nick's identified there is that taking a long, hard look at yourself actually is a big part of running a business, isn't it? And being able to put ego to one side and look at what you're doing, and if it isn't working, change it. That's a big part of it, isn't it? So are there positives in all this that making you kind of slightly change direction, do you think?
I think I've made loads of notes, so I've got loads of episodes for you after this. But I've just got a lot of thoughts that I now need to order. I think there are definitely positives. And one of the things as a business owner is you need to be able to be self-analytical, which a lot of people can't do. And I think that sometimes is what divides people who continue to be successful and maybe go through more of change more frequently. Being able to analyse and make those tough decisions is all part of it. And I think that's part of what our error was last year, trying to be too nice and too amenable, opposed to looking at it pragmatically and what was right for the business, which is what has definitely impacted us.
It's interesting, Trevor, isn't it? And by the way, Steph, we'll do an episode on the psychology of small business owners at some point in the future. It's interesting, Trevor, isn't it, that one of the questions I've seen people ask is whether this is the new normal, right? The old phrase, the new normal. Everyone's expecting the industry to come back at some point. Come back is the phrase that everyone uses. But maybe this is just it now. Maybe this is what the market is like. It is unpredictable, and you can't sort of plan ahead. Maybe this is just how it is now.
Well, I'm inclined to say yes for the time being, but it is, I think, only for the time being. The question is how long is the time being going to be? Now, prior to the war in Iran kicking off, I would have liked to have said that we were actually starting to come out to the other side of it and get back to pre-2019, pre-COVID times. And I still think that's possible. It's just not at the moment. So again, you're back to that inconsistency. But you've got to plan for the future. You've got to plan for the best. You acknowledge that the worst is the reality, and you temper your enthusiasm about over-expansion or whatever against that. I mean, for instance, our head count is at least 2 down where it should be at the moment. That's design and salespeople. And it's shortly to be 3 because we've got a lady who's retiring. And we're seriously thinking whether or not we just cope for the time being and save that expense on headcount. But that then hamstrings us because the staff that are left are stretched, and there's less time to do all of the things that the blue sky thinker within the team, because I have the luxury of the time to make everybody else's life a pain. And they go, well, yeah, it's a great idea, Trevor. We think we're fantastic, but let us know when we've got another 8 hours spare this week that we can make that happen. And that holds you back. That stops growth and stops you being able to do what you want to do. So yes, there are positive signs, but they're positive signs for the future, not for today.
Steph, what kind of cost increases have you seen in the last 3 or 4 months as well, as we've had, the global economic things that are going on? Are you seeing to see your operating costs or supplier costs or those kind of things be affected? Are you seeing that graph go up?
Not hugely, to be honest. I think a lot of our fixed costs are fixed, so we've managed to, fix them in one way or another. I mean, there are some increases. You've got extra delivery costs and things like that, but we have made an effort to be very tight on our costs. And then we have taken that risk to massively invest in the marketing. So obviously that for us has hugely increased. And it is a bit unsettling when that monthly invoice comes in and you think, God, I hope, this isn't a mistake. But after 6 months, it is showing that it's paying off. And I think that's how long, and just what you were saying, Nick, it is tends to take. They said that at the start, you're going to have to wait about 6 months to see the impact of this. And I think that's about right. But yeah, otherwise, our costs, to be honest, are pretty fixed. We have got the space for another member of staff, and we're sort of, like you're saying, Trevor, we are holding back on doing that. We could really use somebody extra to give the team a bit of relief, but we're just a bit reticent to do that at the moment because we're aware that anything could happen. I think, utilities and things like that, it's all a bit up in the air, isn't it? So yeah, we're being conservative.
Is anybody seeing any opportunistic suppliers? Have you had the emails yet saying there's increases on things that perhaps shouldn't be increasing? Anybody?
I'm getting it on the plumbing merchant side, and it's just starting to feed through. And I think going back to Middle East, there is an impact because obviously crude oil prices have gone up, and that's just starting to feed through because the first delayed shipments should have been a sort of a landing and docking over this last week. So it's really starting to hit home now. So on stuff like for us on the plumbing side, we've had price increases from a few different suppliers who obviously, because it's oil-based, we're seeing 10 to 12% price increases effective 1st of May from a few different suppliers. That's all down to oil price. That's just going to have to, and that's going to be across the market. So that's going to hit. But we've also seen the odd ceramics manufacturer put surcharges on, and then we're seeing surcharges on, as Steph says, certain suppliers now on deliveries, surcharges on deliveries, because obviously the price of diesel's gone up, so it's costing all these suppliers more to get the goods out to you. So that's where we're seeing the price rises. But I am expecting more on the merchant side, particularly just because raw material has all gone up.
Are you seeing that as well, Steph?
We don't really work with that side of it. The installers we work with aren't employed by us, so they're seeing it. We're not. But certainly, yeah, like I said, the delivery costs and things like that. We're seeing, certain tiles and things, for example. We're seeing some increases in our costs on those just by virtue of where they're coming over from. But yeah, at the moment, I think we're protected a bit by the fact that we don't do that install side. So raw materials wise, we're not impacted.
Trevor, Liz, anything in the kitchen side? Any emails through yet?
I don't think so. As far as I'm aware, no. I've got a feeling that there will be some coming at some point fairly soon. Generally speaking, within the kitchen industry, I think most of our trade suppliers are very conscious of the economic difficulties that we're all experiencing, and they're hanging back as long as they possibly can do before hitting us with price increases or surcharges. But that doesn't mean to say that they won't come.
Trevor and I share some suppliers though, and they had already had price increases February, March and April. So those were already done. So there's a slight amount of amalgamation that has been there. So they probably feel a bit uncomfortable. We have seen a couple of delivery surcharges though.
After Brexit, for example, is the one I remember. Literally, there were suppliers sending letters out the day after the referendum result, putting 10% on things. And so there is clearly a hesitancy on the suppliers' part here to put big price increases on, or to put prices increases on, blaming it on what's happening elsewhere in the world. But I can see if you make shower trays out of plastic, do you know what I mean? They're going to be more expensive, aren't they? They just are. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about confidence. A lot of you have used the word how you feel about things. I feel that the market's doing this, so I feel this is happening. How important is your own confidence in a protractedly difficult market? This is a psychological question, Steph, so I'm going to come to you. You're our official psychology correspondent now. It's all right, Nick does the legal stuff. And he always qualifies it by saying it does not qualify as legal advice. So what is the importance of your own confidence, of the consumer confidence? Because a lot of this is about how you feel walking into the showroom every day. And I remember you saying last year, Liz, that when you looked at the numbers, it wasn't as bad as you thought it was, because you felt that the market, or you hear the news every day that everything's going wrong, and it does batter your confidence, and confidence affects how well you do. So what's your current confidence levels at, Steph? Pretty high, I'm assuming.
Yeah, really high. I'm feeling really positive. And it does make a big impact on your day-to-day behaviour. It impacts how willing you are, to take risks, to make extra investments, all of that kind of thing. It's not always there, it goes up and down on a day-to-day basis. But I think just keeping on top of what I've personally done is tried to really get on top of my numbers so that I've got that data-driven confidence as well as just the feeling I'm getting, in the showroom. So I think confidence is hugely important for us as business owners, and it impacts on the team as well. And obviously they feed off you. And I think for our sales staff, that is hugely important because you can see when they're feeling a bit uneasy and that impacts their behaviour. So I think confidence is a huge thing.
So what's your current confidence out of 10?
I'm going for an 8. I haven't been there for a while, but I'm going for it.
Okay, that's above average. We like that. Now, Trevor, obviously, everything Steph says there is absolutely true, multiplied by 3 for you because you've got so many staff comparatively. And if they see your heads down, then their heads are going to be down. Do you feel sort of obligated to look confident even if you're not?
Well, fortunately, most of the time, they don't have to look at me
Yeah,
because
that's
I'm not there. But the confidence factor is an absolute given. We've often said that when it comes to the showrooms and the staff, it's that aura of confidence, of being in control, of having a comfortable business that is doing okay, regardless of what the circumstances might be, because that's almost an ephemeral smell, an atmosphere in the air that you can't actually touch and feel, but customers can smell it. And if a customer walks into the showroom and everybody's down, then the customers pick up on that incredibly quickly. So that psychology of trying to make sure that everybody is feeling up and buzzy, regardless of what's actually happening around us all, is so very, very important. And there is a lot of psychology at play there. But in terms of keeping staff up, then it's giving them all the positives. So, for instance, we've all talked about the building trades and that, they've got enough new house build starts, etc., etc. Well, from our point of view, we've just had our best ever quarter in the contracts division, and that's been running for over 10 years. So that's going well past, pre-COVID days. So for us, contracts is strong. That's a good indicator. Retail will follow through and get stronger. And we sell that message to our staff, and that gives them the confidence to then go out and be very positive with our customers.
All right, so what's your confidence score out of 10 then?
I'm going to say 7, verging on 7.5.
Oh, you've always got to do the fraction when we do this one. You've always got to do the fraction. It makes my maths difficult. Liz, how about you? You've got a small team there. Do you feel that you have to stride into the showroom every morning confident, or can you be very open about what's actually going on?
I have to talk everything to death in order to, I just do. So I'm quite transparent and sometimes probably a little bit too open, but it's always with solutions. So it's always because I'm problem solving and doing that analytical side of things. And having had a difficult few months, I've been a lot more involved with what the salespeople are doing and their approach. So I think it's been really important to have that transparency. Otherwise, they take it as you just trying to micromanage them instead of guide them into other ways of closing, making sure you've got clarity for consumer confidence as well. You're highlighting your USPs, you're making sure that all of those things are kind of reiterated and they're at the forefront of the mind, because when you are busy, you become lazy about those things and it slips away. So I think that there needs to be an open dialogue in a business like ours about that, because your actions are going to have to change to adapt to that market.
But even in an open dialogue, are you the glass is half full person?
Depends on the hour.
It depends what's in the glass as well.
Yeah, depends if I've been fed or not.
So look, out of 10, Liz, what's your confidence score?
I've got to be a 7 or 8. We've got huge plans for this year.
You can't be a 7 or an 8. You've got to.
Well, I'm going to do 9 and do 7.5 then.
You're going to go fraction as well. Oh.
Yeah, I'm never too positive.
So Nick, what about you? Glass is half full, glass is half empty. How confident are you?
Yeah, I'm feeling good about the year. And again, going back to what Steph says, I've made a substantial effort to track what the business is actually doing a little bit more. And that is really useful. I think going back to what we've all been saying, where things are up and down, to actually be able to look at the numbers and see what you're doing, the feeling that you get and what the numbers say sometimes are different things. So it's, I've found it really insightful to track. And we run April to March in terms of our numbers. We sold more stuff last year than we did the year before. So that's a good thing. Enquiry levels are up, I know, because we're tracking them. So from that perspective, things are good and I'm feeling positive. So that's all good for us. The trade counter, we've got a new guy on the trade counter who joined us at the end of January. He's been fantastic addition to the business. So got a really positive outlook on the bathrooms and plumbing side of the business. So, for me, I'm a solid 8 at the moment for this year.
Solid 8, a round 8. It's a round number. That's what we like. Well, look, this is all brilliant stuff, and thank you for your contribution in your first episode, Steph. It's been really, really good. We will definitely do the psychology of small business owners. I think we should also do something on tracking numbers, because that seems to be a thing that everyone's sort of really gone in deep on that. So we should definitely do something on that. We'll definitely do something on marketing. So we've got lots to talk about in the season coming up. So look, thank you all so much. I will see you next week.
See you next week.
Thanks, guys. Bye.